Hey, what's up, everyone in New Warrior Nation? This is your man, Sincere Hogan, the People's Fit Coach, and I have a very special guest on the line with me today. Not just a guest, but I can actually say I have a great friend that's on the phone today. And actually, it's a real honor to get him on the phone because this is probably one of the hardest working brothers in the business right now. And it's really good to have him on the phone. So without further ado, everybody, please give it up for Mr. Steve Cotter. Hey, Steve, how's it going, brother?
Sincere, it's going wonderfully. Thank you very much for sharing some time with me.
Oh, sweet, man. Likewise, I love the fact that you had some time in your busy schedule that you can talk to us and let us know what's going on, especially with your latest project that's going on right now. Just give everybody a brief background on Steve, which, this is one of those guys where pretty much you should know who he is, but just in case you are new to the game and you want to know more, Steve Cotter draws from an extensive and diverse background as a champion athlete and cutting-edge trainer to develop some of the most complete and exciting programs in strength and conditioning today. Throughout his lifelong study, Steve continues to research and implement the most effective training methods in kettlebells, martial arts, qigong, strength and conditioning, athletics, and human performance fields. He constantly improves his skills and abilities to benefit, teach, and motivate you. Steve is also the founder and president of the IKFF, which is the International Kettlebell and Fitness Federation. And most importantly, I must say that Steve is probably like a guy that's all over the globe, spreading the good word about health and wellness out there. So, Steve, I know you just released your new DVD, which is Extreme Strength. And for those, for you guys, I'm just going to drop you the link right quick. You can go to budurl.com/Steve Cotter. That's Cotter with two T's, E-R, and Extreme without the E, Xtreme. All right, so that's budurl.com/Steve Cotter Extreme, and check out the new DVD. Steve, I got to ask you this, man. When do you have time to even shoot a DVD? Seriously.
That's a very good question.
Are you doing it on an airplane?
That's a very good question. Usually about every 18 months or so, I put aside a few weeks to do a new project. So, it's just juggling, always juggling my schedule. So I would like to be able to do more, but as you know, I spend most of my time teaching and conducting seminars. So
definitely.
That was about a year ago that I filmed this latest project.
Cool. And I know you guys are hearing that Steve and I are going back and forth about him traveling all the time. He's really working hard with this federation, the IKFF, and he's teaching lots of seminars and workshops throughout the globe. And we're going to talk about that a little later. But so that really keeps the schedule busy. So, in fact, Steve, it's to the point now that you have double residency now, right?
Not formally, no, not formally. I'm
okay.
Proud to be an American citizen, but my wife is from Italy, so we do spend a lot of time over there as well. But no dual citizenship for me.
Well, trust me, Italy's not a bad place,
Yeah, it's a nice
Definitely
place.
A cool place. All right, so tell me this, Steve. Let's talk about this DVD and why this particular DVD? Like, what brought about the inspiration to create the Extreme Strength DVD?
Well, in the past, I primarily was doing a lot of instructionals and a lot of in-depth teaching cues, and more and more the types of requests I had been getting is from people that have experience, feel pretty comfortable with the basics, but they're generally looking for guidance for putting together a program. They just don't have the right touch on how to take, dozens of exercises that they know and put it together in a sort of a periodized method. And that's probably one of the hardest parts of the science aspect of what we do, is understanding how to periodize training protocols. And so I've been fortunate to have had access to some very good coaches over the years, especially during my travels. And so I've taken some of that experience and put my own touches on it to put together this program. So basically people can just take the thought process out of it take the guesswork out of it and just follow along. So it's literally a follow-along program, and to my knowledge, there's really been nothing done like that to this degree before with kettlebells, where I'm actually taking you from, step one, and we're working out together, not in a high-low aerobics type of fashion, but in an intense strength conditioning protocol. So and basically everyone that's tried this program so far has given me feedback that it, really kicks their butt, but they're noticing, very specific gains in their conditioning and their strength using this program. So it's really, I would say, a pretty high level strength conditioning protocol that someone can follow, and they can repeat it as well. So they can do this, several times a year, and just vary the loads as you progress.
Right. Okay. All right. Definitely. And it's funny because the next question I was going to ask you, you just mentioned that, to your knowledge, that this hasn't been done before, and I was just about to ask you, like, what sets this DVD apart from all the others out there? Because let's face it, like, pretty much these days, every corner you turn, I mean, you can go down the aisle of Walmart, and there's 50 million kettlebell DVDs there now, and I'm not saying they're great. I'm just saying there are 50 million kettlebell DVDs out there. And then I'm just say right now the market's getting really saturated because now all of a sudden, you have tons of various kettlebells out there, which, a lot of them are not necessarily the best kettlebells in the world. And, everybody, the market is starting to realize that they can capitalize on the kettlebell culture, as with just about any other market out there. So, and that's what I was about to ask you, like, what sets this DVD apart, other than also that it has the periodization and the programming going on as well.
Yeah, man. Well, it's real training, and it comes from from experience, and it comes from picking the minds of some really really high level and well experienced coaches that I've learned from, and so it's not fluff. There's no fluff there. It's just hard work, and it's just as it appears. So it's very honest work. You're definitely going to get progress if you stay with the program. And, there's probably a lot of good information out there, but it takes a tremendous amount of energy to put together a program like this. I actually almost killed myself filming it because I'm doing all the workouts myself, and I was doing about 4 to 5 a day. I actually filmed it all over 4 days' time. So, there's 36 workouts on there, and none of them are easy. They're all on average about 30 minutes of very high intensity training. So that's part of the issue why it's never been done, is just the amount of work involved, the amount of energy involved. And many people don't have the experience. This is stuff that is really coming a lot out of the Russian and Eastern European traditions that really in America people are just starting to get some insight into, so it's pretty new for, at least for America and the Western world. It's pretty new to have access to this type of periodization for kettlebells, at least. Right.
I mean, it's probably safe to say that so many of those who are putting out things are still kind of following that Western bodybuilder style of training, would you say?
Yes, it seems that way. It just basic fitness, and there's nothing wrong with that. I think it's good for the market that there's more, that there's more access, and as the saying goes, the cream rises to the top. So the more products there are, the more things have to become attractive in terms of pricing and quality, and sooner or later, people are not going to have to settle for just what's out there, because there's going to be many choices, so they can pick what's best for their particular interest. So I think it's good, even though not all the quality of things are good. It's good that there's enough interest that it's going to, I guess you could say, drive competition, get people to have to put forward their best effort, and that's really what, as educators, that's what we need to do. We need to constantly up our game and provide provide good quality for the consumers out there.
Definitely. And and I know you just mentioned that you've learned from some of the best in, say, Russia, and I know you've studied with some of the best athletes in Italy as well.
Yeah.
Let me say this, and it goes without saying that you definitely do walk the walk, and you do, like you said, you put in all the work, 4 days worth of training of these workouts on the DVD, all by yourself. So, and I'm thinking one of the things that kind of separates everyone, as far as everybody dropping products these days, is that you definitely walk the walk. There's no question about, okay, he's putting out this product, but can he do this? Can he do all these things that he says? And I mean, you definitely show it, which I think in this industry right now, that's the one thing that's lacking with all the so-called experts and gurus and, the celebrity trainers and all this and that. People are they're good at telling people what to do, but they're not very good at doing it themselves. And I definitely commend you for that. But what do you think what really drove you to seek out some of the best in the world? Because it's not like you went into, like on the other side of San Diego, at home and say, hey, there's this cool instructor, I'm going to learn from him. But you've gone as far as Russia, Italy. What drives you? What keeps you going to do things like that and really get on the cutting edge of learning from the top people in the world?
A combination of factors. First and foremost, I consider it professional integrity, responsibility, to be on top of my game, to further educate myself. I think that something that was ingrained in me early on when I was a young teenager studying martial arts is that to be a good teacher, you have to be a good student. And right. Since my profession is to be an instructor, I can't stop learning because the system is progressing. And if I don't progress along with it, then my knowledge base becomes outdated. So it's just on a professional integrity level, but also on the level of personal pride is that, there's many talented people out there. There's many, ambitious, hungry consumers, I would say, for lack of a better word. And that's driving the growth of the industry, driving the growth of the development of kettlebell as an art form and as a fitness modality. And so if I want to be on that cutting edge, I have to do my part to keep growing and keep learning. And then the third thing is the experience. When you practice and you study, you learn something from that. So, I always see myself as a student, and that means I have to have, there's a saying in empty your cup. You have to empty your cup, and a lot of times people associate that with meaning that you have to be humble, but right. It's not necessarily a matter of your humility, although that is important. Empty your cup means you have to be able and willing to learn new things, or even be willing to unlearn things that are no longer useful. So I think I'm very good at that. I'm able to empty my cup when I need to and put on my student hat, and I'll be the first one. If you see me in a seminar, I'll be the first one. I'll be up in front asking questions and training and learning. I don't have this guru complex where I think I know all there is to know. So right. That's what really drives me, is those three things there.
Definitely. I think one of the most beautiful things in the world is the fact that we can acknowledge that what we know is what we don't know.
Yes.
And I think that's probably one of the best mantras in the world right there. And, I mean, it sucks trying to be right,
For sure. It worked for Socrates, and it can work for us as well.
Exactly. Exactly. So, and one thing, I mean, we always, I know when you and I have talked before, we've talked about martial arts. And just now we just talked about Socrates. Give us just a brief background of just your martial arts training and what got you into martial arts training, and also just beyond the training itself, because I don't like to always just focus so much on the training and the exercise portion of life and things like that in this industry, but also just the mindset and the mentality, the philosophy, especially Eastern philosophy, which to me is far more fascinating than what we deal with over here in the West. It's as far as it just seems like there's so many things in the East that are in tune with how is what we're seeking in life, what most of us are seeking in life. and probably all of us, because some of us haven't even acknowledged it yet, but it'll hit us sooner or later. Sometimes it hit us at the wrong moment, but that wrong moment might actually be that right moment, because there is no accident, and, everything happens for a reason. So just, give us a brief, just a little bit of your background as far as Eastern philosophy and martial arts.
Yeah, well, I originally just got into martial art training because my oldest two brothers enrolled me. They thought it would be a good idea. As a young man, I was getting into a lot of trouble. Not gangster stuff like that, but just I was a pretty bright young guy, and I was the youngest of five. So my older siblings were quite a bit older than me. So I spent a lot of time kind of growing up by myself. Both parents working, and how things are in the modern world. You have a lot of unsupervised time, and so I was just getting into trouble, being a kind of a smart ass with my teachers, thinking I was too smart, too cool for school, all that stuff. And so my oldest brothers just kind of took the lead and thought that I needed that type of discipline and something to occupy my time in a creative way. So I moved out to California. From the East Coast. I grew up in New York, and in 1982, and I basically was enrolled in the Chinese Kung Fu training at that time, and that became a daily thing for me for many years, for almost 20 years. That was sort of a daily activity that I was involved in, and it really shaped my physical training background, but it also shaped a lot in terms of my philosophy and how I view the world, how I view myself and my place in it. So it was been very, it's been very much of a lifestyle that has really influenced my upbringing and all the way into my professional life as well.
Awesome. What particular disciplines did you study?
In particular, I studied what's known as the Chinese internal martial arts, and those one art is named Xingyi, and the other is named Bagua, and the third is called Tai Chi. And most people have heard about Tai Chi. It's usually referred to as a health system, a system for longevity and relaxation. But there's also a combative side to the Chinese internal martial arts as well. So they differentiate from what most people see in the movies, which sort of have a Shaolin foundation, long fists, big flowing movements. The internal martial arts come from a Taoist tradition. The Taoists were naturalists that lived in the wilderness, and so that philosophy is really ingrained in the arts as well, as far as an integration between mind, body, spirit, and immersing ourselves in the natural world. So that was kind of my foundation, was in the Chinese internal martial arts. And later on, I dabbled in some other things, a little bit of boxing, a little bit of Brazilian jiu-jitsu, just because I felt that some of that training would round out my physical martial arts skills as well. But my foundation is definitely in the Chinese internal martial arts, and that includes not only the fighting and the exercise component, but there's a meditation component and a qigong and a health component, and even some of the Chinese medicine as well, the massage and use of herbal liniments to help dealing with expediting injuries and things like that. So it was a very well-rounded curriculum that I had been exposed to.
Awesome. And we're speaking about martial arts, and it ties right into the kettlebells. There's not a moment where you can turn on, anything doing pretty much martial arts that's in the mainstream now, as far as strength and conditioning for martial artists, especially in mixed martial arts. You turn on any UFC preview or something like that, and you see a fighter training for a fight, you'll see kettlebells popping up a lot more now for those things. Now, again, I'm going to say, yes, we do see it quite often now. Doesn't mean that it's always the best that we see. And let me ask you this, how do you combine, how did you bridge the gap between kettlebell training and martial arts training?
Well, what I tend to do is look at common denominators. If we try to strip things down into their essence, what are the demands of the activity? So if we're looking at a sport, for example, if we're looking at martial arts, for example, what are the physical characteristics that are needed? If we were to kind of make a list. And then, the same thing with the cross-training. In this case, we're talking about kettlebells. So if we're looking at martial arts as the main activity, we're looking at kettlebells as sort of the cross-training or the supplement to the main activity. And we're looking for common denominators. And then we're looking for how the cross-training can support the main skill development. So when we're talking about martial arts and kettlebells, how I'm looking at it is, first of all, we break down the physical characteristics of what do we need to become a more effective or a more skillful martial artist. Well, we need to develop strength, we need to develop conditioning, we need to develop flexibility, mobility, we need to develop power, we need to develop, balance and mental toughness. So there's a lot of individual attributes that we could look at. And then when we look at kettlebells, we look at what does it offer. Is it for maximal strength development? No, not really. So if I'm an athlete and I need to improve my maximal strength, maybe barbell might be a more suitable way of doing that, or definitely barbell would be a more suitable way of doing that. But for martial arts and for kettlebells, what we really see is that we need to be very well-rounded. Martial arts has unique demands when you compare it to many other activities, is that it's not really so specialized. The specialization is in the skill set of the techniques, but when you look at the overall strength conditioning requirements, a well-rounded martial art fighter cannot be good in only one range. That's not enough. If you're very strong but you're not fit, someone can outwork you. If you're very fit but you're not powerful, someone can just overwhelm you. So you need to have a mix of all of these things. You need to be good at everything, or well developed in all aspects, and including flexibility. And so kettlebells lends itself very well in that case because it's a versatile tool. And we say that kettlebells, if you were to define it, it's a strength, power, endurance protocol. It's not one or the other. We look at powerlifting, that's strength. We look at long distance running or triathlon type of training, that's endurance. But if you look at kettlebells, it's a blend. It's strength, it's power, it's endurance. So it's very, very similar in terms of energy system development as what a fighter has to go through. They have to be strong, but they have to sustain their strength. They have to be able to explode at certain points in time. They need to be able to move very powerfully, and so it's very complementary to that way, in my opinion, much more so than something like powerlifting. You're not going to see, martial arts. You don't have to exert all-out effort just one time. You need to be able to replicate it many times during a fight, for example. So that's the kind of the marriage between kettlebells and strength conditioning. And then if you look at breaking things down more, there's a strong grip endurance, especially in the grappling arts. You need to have integrated strength, meaning you have to be able to use your body as a functional unit. So we're not, again, not like bodybuilding where we're isolating particular muscle groups. We're learning to use the whole body in coordination. And again, kettlebells very much develops that. And then we have to have a mental toughness, dealing with discomfort, physical discomfort or pain, and being able to work through that. We have to learn to be able to relax under stress or relax under load. So all of these types of things lend themselves very well for kettlebells to support martial art conditioning, just for the reasons of versatility and working all these different types of attributes at the same time.
Right. I mean, even on top of just martial arts and in combat sports. I mean, it sounds like definitely from everything you just described, it feels like, it seems like, well, we both know, but it seems like it has even a greater carryover. It's also in the other sports as well, from football to basketball, tennis, And it's just funny I said tennis because you just dropped the DVD regarding that too, for conditioning for that. And I'm thinking that's probably the last thing that, those who are aware of kettlebells even associate, with kettlebells is tennis. But
yes.
but when you mention things like the conditioning, the endurance, I mean, listen, let's face it, tennis is a very high endurance sport. I mean, you're going back and forth, back and forth. This could go on for about 2-3 hours, So
exactly, and the common denominator there in particular is that you have to develop power from the ground up. So it starts in the feet, and it transfers through the legs, midsection, and out through the hands and the racket. So that's really where the benefit with the kettlebells is teaching someone how to develop power from the ground up, learning how to use their stance, and develop this kind of wave-like movement where it comes up from the ground and out. So that's what we're using it for. And I'm not personally a tennis player, but what I did in the Kettlebells for Tennis DVDs, I collaborated with some high-level tennis coaches that do understand the game very well. So I don't try to pretend to be a tennis player, but I collaborate with people that know tennis, and I study the movements, and I understand the energy systems involved and the type of physical characters needed. And that's how I developed a program for other sports. So you don't even necessarily need to have a background in that sport if you understand how to break down and analyze the movements.
Right.
And, if you do know the strength conditioning protocols, you can learn how to complement those with other sports. So the main thing with tennis is that from the ground up power, and that's what kettlebells is very good for developing.
Yeah, definitely, and even beyond tennis, and I always like to mention to my listeners, my readers, my clients, that pretty much just in life, just we as human beings, the way we function, everything starts from the ground up. It doesn't work from the top down. And
exactly.
Even in just your thought processes, it starts from just getting right down to the core of everything, and then start adding those layers to it. Instead of a lot of people, especially the so-called experts when it comes to life coaching and things like that, they always want to peel away all these layers first. And I think that's kind of like putting everything in reverse, if you ask me. Let's start from the very, very core basics of, just how we got here in life. We started from the womb, and everything else, we just evolved going up from there. And I think we tend to forget that, and we kind of lose sight of that as far as even just with our training, the way we move and things like that.
There's a disconnect that occurs somewhere along the way. So it's kind of
exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. So let me say this. Let me ask you this. Why is it? I know we just talked about different types of athletes as far as using kettlebell training to their advantage, especially a lot of things they can find on this DVD, on the Extreme Strength DVD. But why do you think the kettlebells has become so interesting, even to the general public? Like, what is it about kettlebells and the kettlebell culture that's it's starting to really catch the attention of just the everyday average Joe and Jane out there?
I think it ties into the same kind of thing we're talking about with that disconnect. We can easily say because it works. That's sort of a general statement, but what does that mean exactly? Because many things work. So if there's a reason, what is it about kettlebells that has attracted people that maybe other modalities doesn't do? My sense is that kettlebells has some kind of primal, there's some kind of primal connection that people make, and I think that, it's very dynamic, and life is dynamic. So,
yes,
some of it is just timing. Kettlebells has come along at the right time when people are searching for something. Obviously, it's not the answer to all of life's problems, and we know that, but at least from a training perspective, it gets people moving. Really, it's this connection between the movement and the breath, or the breath and the movement, and that's so crucial in kettlebell lifting, and that's a big part of martial art training, but generally people are completely disconnected from that. And, for yoga also trains the breath and the movement together, as does martial arts, as does Tai Chi, but a lot of those protocols don't appeal to people. Maybe there's too much philosophy, or they're prejudiced towards, they see it as this Eastern mysticism. It's not for them. Maybe it conflicts with their upbringing or their religious beliefs. But kettlebells is kind of non-denominational. There's no chanting. You don't have to change your beliefs to accept kettlebells into your world. And so martial arts is not really the answer for a lot of people because, let's face it, nobody really likes to get hit, punched and kicked in the head. And if you're not, then you're not really doing martial arts in the first place. You're doing Taibo or something else. Yoga, same thing. So kettlebells is really a non-denominational way that people can get in touch with that connectedness of their movement and their breathing. And also because you're moving your hips in kettlebells, you're moving your hips, and that's the center of our body. And so when you're moving your hips, your whole body has to respond to that. And I think it just wakes up this kind of primal energy that we have inside of us. By moving our hips, we're exercising our diaphragm, we're exercising our breathing, and of course in the martial arts, particularly the Chinese and some of the Indian traditions with yoga, they talk about this prana or this chi, which is this sort of invisible life force that we can't really touch, but we know it's there. I think kettlebells kind of wakens that up inside the body, wakens up that deeper energy that we can't really access just from doing high tension weight training exercises. And it's not something people understand, but it's something they feel. They just feel alive when they're doing it. They feel alive, and it makes them feel powerful. And that's really what this is about. It's helping people improve themselves.